What is the relationship between entrepreneurship and creativity? Can I have creativity without entrepreneurship? Not at all. Now, if you really look at entrepreneurship, now of course there is a whole course on entrepreneurship, but just to give you a slight perspective on the marriage and the interplay between creativity and entrepreneurship happens when two things come together. First is opportunity, and second is capability or competence. Now, to identify an opportunity which may be lying on plain sight, do you need creativity? Of course you need creativity. And to address the opportunity, you need to have capability, but to develop the capability, do you need creativity again? Of course you need creativity. Now, as a working definition of creativity, I'll of course talk about this in length in the second module, but for the time being, creativity is your ability to generate an idea which is new and useful. So novelty and utility are the two conditions. So let's draw the attention back to the interplay between creativity and entrepreneurship. And suffice it to say that it is almost impossible for you to be a successful entrepreneur without having creativity. Creativity is not only required in coming up with a clever solution, but you need creativity for pricing it. You need creativity for taking it to the market. You need creativity for adding complementary services and products to it. You need creativity to sell a dream to the customer, to sell a career to an employee, to sell returns to the investors, and to sell glory to yourself. You're always solving problems. The moment you solve a problem, another problem comes up. And every time when you're solving a problem, you can either use common sense or you can use creativity. And my personal recommendation would be always be creative. Because when you use creativity to solve a problem, you create a solution that outlasts you. Okay, now this is very fascinating work done by Harvard's Clayton Christensen and his colleagues on what are the mindsets that one needs to have to be creative as an entrepreneur. And the first mindset is that of questioning. Now, have you ever wondered why a child asks so many questions? The child asks questions because everything is new to the child. But moreover, the child doesn't have inhibitions. In fact, till the age of 3, the child doesn't even know that the child is naked. So a 3-year-old child can very much go on the street without clothes. But the moment the child crosses the age of 3, he or she becomes conscious suddenly that, oh my God, I'm naked. Okay, what will others think? So there's a first inhibition, the shame. And then slowly the same child is taught, no, you are like this. Some of this is useful, but a lot of that is useless. Because parents are trying to impose their own thought process onto the child. And who knows what is good for the child? So the creativity is all about having the mind of a child in the body of an adult. I'll repeat myself. Have the mind of a child in the body of an adult. And the best way to remain a child is to ask questions. Keep asking questions. The worst that can happen to you is that people might get irritated. That's okay. I'm okay to appear a fool than to remain a fool. We need to be showing curiosity in life. Ask questions. Wherever you go, talk to people. And if people can't give you answers, the second thing you do is you observe. Observe things around you. In fact, by the sheer observation skills itself, you can come up with so many opportunities in your life. And that is how you develop creativity. Now, how will you observe? Now, Bangalore is one of the most sophisticated cities in the country because on average, I have seen people being much more technologically savvy. And I believe that this is one of the most forgiving cities in the country. I'm an immigrant to this city, okay, but for the last 20 years I've been living here, and I think this is an absolutely forgiving city. At 4 a.m., this is the sight which I see at the Bangalore International Airport. At 4 a.m., what sight do you see at the airports? Unfortunately, the sight you see is that people are completely choked into their 4x3 screen, totally absorbed. They're so absorbed, but they don't understand who is sitting right next to them. They're so absorbed that they might be almost missing their flight. Even while they're walking to the queue and the boarding gate, they are still on their phones. What are you observing? You're not observing anything around you. And as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is creative, you need to have very good observation skills. Because from these observations, you find pockets of excellence. You find challenges that, hey, this is an interesting one. I can possibly start a business there. This is a very interesting gap. For example, the airports. One of the things which I'm always sort of struggling at the airport is how do the people who are old reach from the security to the gate? Because in big airports, we have a very long distance. And there are very few buggies which are available, electric buggies which are available, very, very few. And you can't wait for them. And if you have old parents, there are not enough wheelchairs also available. How do you take your old parents from the security to the gate? There's a great opportunity. And this opportunity will never come to you unless and until you are observing things. Okay? So that's why observation is very important. The next thing is experimentation. You need to be really voracious when it comes to experimenting. Experiment with everything in your life. Experiment with the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the people you talk to, the books you read, the movies you watch, the places you go to. And by experimenting, your threshold of an error, your threshold of a mistake really goes up. What you call as an error, what you call as a mistake goes up because now you're okay to fail. Right? Don't you remember having so much fun in the chemistry and the physics lab? I mean, we had far more fun in the chemistry and the physics lab as compared to the chemistry and the physics theory classes, correct? Because experiments were fun. And did you succeed in all the experiments? Answer is no. In most experiments, you failed. But even a failed experiment is fairly instructive, correct? As a matter of fact, Jeff Bezos very famously says that if you have to be an innovative company, you have to have more experiments packed every single day. And same applies to you. If you have to be an entrepreneur, especially a first generation entrepreneur who is starting something completely from scratch, you need to be highly experimentative. Okay, keep experimenting. For example, Bhavesh Agrawal's Ola is a very good example of experimentation. He's experimented with various formats, experimented with various user interfaces, various services. Some of them have failed, some of them have succeeded wildly. For example, I'm a big fan of the postpaid. Because every time you get down from a taxi, especially at the airport, you don't want to really take your wallet out and settle the bill. What if it is postpaid? You have a certain credit rating basis that it's a postpaid, and in certain cases you can have a postpaid of as much as 5,000 and 10,000 rupees. It really saves the hassle. That is an experiment. And many experiments fail. For example, the experiment that they had with Ola Play wasn't a terrible success. Because nowadays people are carrying their own devices to get entertained and you don't need a Ola Play at the taxi, but that's okay, right? Observation, if I go back to the observation skills, it was the amazing observation skills of Oyo's founder, Ritesh Agarwal. He stayed at so many, bread and breakfast hotels, and he understood the struggle that both hotels are having, the small 2-star, 3-star hotels are having in terms of occupancy, and the struggle that middle income group have when they're going to different cities. And he thought that why not make these places slightly more standardized, make them available, accessible through a platform, and Oyo became a massive success as a result of that. Like, look at the ID Fresh Food. ID Fresh Food is another very brilliant example of questioning. You go ahead and you question that why can't I supply idli dosa butter in a fresh format across the households? Now, traditionally, the only way you can get this is if you make it at your home in a certain quantity, or if you go out to some unorganized sector and buy this in a little unhygienic condition. But thanks to ID Fresh Food, which has now become a multi-billion-dollar company, you can easily get these. And what did they do? Did they stop at the idli dosa batter? No. They've gone into curds, into paneer, into Kerala parota, into filter coffee and vada maker. I think this is very, very experimentative, but the starting point was questioning. Okay. So if you trace back every single invention and every single entrepreneur who have made it success in the country or elsewhere, it starts with questioning, observing, experimenting. Now, can you do it all by yourself? Can you have your own idea and your own labor and your own talent and your own money and your own access? Obviously, you can't. It's impossible that you can do everything for yourself. For example, the very fact that you are watching me on this video right now is an effort of so many people behind the scenes. I can't name all of them, but I'm totally grateful to every one of them. And this is the power of network. Now, as you are a part of the IIM Bangalore fraternity, don't you think that networking with the IIM Bangalore fraternity can help you come up with new business avenues? Definitely, yes. Now, there are two types of network. The personal network and the professional network. Okay? The personal network is with people whom you can count on your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Keep your personal network very small, very deep. Very small and very deep. I have a litmus test. Somebody in your personal network should be so dear to you that you should be able to exchange blood. If the person can give you blood, literally blood, when the need comes, only then he or she deserves to be in your network, personal network. Otherwise, it's a waste. But your professional network has to be very shallow and very wide. Very, very wide. You should at least be able to have 100 people whom you can bounce off your ideas with. Often what happens is people make this mistake that they try to convert their professional network into their personal network. They think that if I know him better, if I know his family better, I'll be able to do more business with him. No. Because the moment you convert somebody who is professional into somebody who is personal, you cannot say no. You cannot say no. You should always be in a position to say no. If it doesn't make sense, you should say no. Okay? And by networking, I don't mean how many people you have in your Facebook account. I don't mean how many Instagram fans you have. No, I'm not talking of that as a network. I'm talking of people whom you can talk seriously about business. That's the kind of network. And a good go-to place is LinkedIn. But again, in LinkedIn, don't chase numbers. Try to talk to people. If you can't have an intellectually heavy conversation with somebody, it doesn't make sense. And finally, to wrap it all up, we have this skill called associating skill. What is associating skill? Associating skill means that you are able to connect the dots. Albeit looking backwards, but you should be able to connect the dots. You read something in the book. You watched something in the video. You heard something on the podcast. You saw a YouTube video. You heard somebody talking. You had a conversation. Can you bring all these disparate things together in a coherent whole? That's called associative thinking. And I have seen that the creative people, the hallmark of creative people is associative thinking, or what we call as fluid thinking. They don't think in compartments. They don't think that this is office, this is work, this is hobby, right? This is physics, this is chemistry, this is mathematics, this is business, this is computer science. No, they think of it as a spectrum. They can pick anything and combine with anything else, and that is where creativity is. So a good definition of creativity is combining the old in the new form and new in the old form. That is creativity. Okay? It's all about combination. It's all about orchestration. For example, if I look at music, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. That's it. But how much of music can I create with only these 7 swaras? Infinite. English has 26 alphabets. How many words and how many allocutions can I create with these 26 alphabets? Infinite. Now for me to create a new poem or for me to create a new passage, I don't want to create a new alphabet. For me to create a new music, I don't want to create a new note. You see the point? It's all combining the existing in a new manner. And that is happening only through associative thinking. So the intent of this short piece was to make you clear that you need to be creative to be entrepreneurial. And entrepreneurship, guys and girls, is not about a choice of profession. Entrepreneurship is not a role. It's a way of life. It's a way of life. I think Christopher Nolan is as entrepreneurial as anybody else is, even though he's a director, right? I think some of the people who are getting salaried somewhere else can be highly entrepreneurial if they are willing to be enterprising in their life, okay? So minus creativity, it becomes very difficult to be a good employee, let alone be an entrepreneur. And today the time has come that instead of seeking job, you create job. And I sincerely hope that this entire course and this program helps you become job creators. Thank you so much.